Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Trackmania. Welcome back also to my two lovely co-hosts, as Turbo gives us a lovely wave there, just to welcome everyone back. And or is that a new emote? A Lucker to cheer. Oh my god! Okay, Turbo is leaving the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Self-plugging, but anyway, hello everyone, welcome. We are on episode
DMCA
Yeah, we are
claim.
in episode something and something, and we are back with the ESAC.GG Let's Talk Trackmania. We have a few kind of episodes to catch up on almost, as we weren't here the last 2 weeks. Fortunately, one of us was unwell, and I unfortunately had my colleague schedule a work meeting for me one day in advance for this. So I was like, okay, I don't want to get sacked, so I had to leave you guys on the back burner, but my heart was still here. And yada yada yada. Don't hate me and still watch the stream. Anyway, welcome back. I am your host TMScotsman, joined by the lovely, as always, LuckersTurbo, and now the newly, or I should say, oldly christened Shorty DE. He is back. He is in the correct colors once again. He's under the correct name once again. Shirty is no more, and the two
Finally.
is reigning supreme once again under the right name, which I'm very happy about. But first question back, I suppose. I always ask this week upon week, and it's like it's almost well, I suppose it is a tradition at this point. But I haven't actually seen you guys in a few weeks. So, Shorty,
Happy
how
New
are
Year.
you doing?
I'm mostly doing fine. I'm a little bit stressed right now because I'm planning a holiday with my sister. And it turns out planning a holiday during Corona is trying to make it as less fun. It's basically trying to make it so complicated that you just don't even want to bother with it and just be like, yeah, I don't need holidays. It really is a mess, honestly, especially with German stuff and all of that. But anyway, I'm pulling through with that, so I'm gonna chillax
Chillax. Yeah,
for
that's
like
good. But yeah,
3 weeks
planning.
with my sister in a month.
Okay, still going. You're a bit laggy, dude. You're a bit laggy.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a holiday in 2 years. Welcome to Germany.
Dude,
I
he's lagging,
should
isn't he?
not. Am I still lagging?
Oh, but yeah, only a little bit.
Only a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I've got the four house emo, but
I don't know.
we'll
Wait,
survive.
what?
We'll get through it as Shorty has technical difficulties. I wish we could just have like the little kind of TV screen and like like the elevator music while we wait for
Yeah.
everyone to get back on the same page. But Turbo, I noticed you've got a first aid kit in the background. Is that so just in case you injure yourself during the podcast?
I always enjoy myself, but
Injure?
No, enjoy, not injure. Yeah, injure. Your Scottish accent makes it really hard to understand sometimes, but yeah. Well, I don't injure myself. Why should I injure? I only injure spiders who are in here in my room.
Yeah, yeah. In all fairness, you are battling things quite frequently in the
But what did I
podcast.
battle
So.
now? Just because
Oh
I did
well,
this?
spider. I'm sure there was something. There was some sort of fly you
I threw this
demolished.
fly that flew like here.
Yeah.
You could have seen that.
So yeah.
Yeah.
How are you doing anyway?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, very, very stressy. My vaccine is like a booster shot now for like, I don't know, 80 days. It's like some weird law, but the Johnson vaccine got uh, demoted to not be a full vaccine anymore. There was like, and then they decided to be elsewhere, and then like they don't even know what they're talking about. But then I actually got wind of that I can actually now go into the gym everywhere without having a test. So I'm doing a lot of sports at the moment, when swimming, into the gym, jogging, basketball. I can do all of that again, which is very good. But also streaming and videos, and also my study. I'm not gonna neglect that. So very busy at the moment. Also a lot of casts that are coming up, with the Solary Cup. Then also we have the mid-season invitational. CPS is also there. So very busy in Trackmania at the moment. But I have also seen you around. Bye bye, Toby. I've also seen you around in the last couple of weeks in Trackmania. And after you tell me how you are doing, you can maybe tell us how it went for you.
Oh God. Oh no. But yeah, last few weeks have been quite okay for me. Been getting a little bit busier with work, and yeah, all's good. I'm happy to be busy. You know, it felt like for a long time that I've just kind of been not really had a lot to do and all the rest of that, and also might be starting back to the gym over the next few weeks.
Oh,
Got my
nice.
driving test coming up soon.
True,
So
that was.
yeah, so we've got that coming up.
True, that was
So
something.
so yeah, a lot of interesting things to come up, and yes, as Turbo has alluded to, I did actually once play the game of Trackmania instead of just talking about it. I recently competed in the British and Irish Pro Cup, of which I achieved a result of
Describe it.
ninth to 10th, I believe, because it
Yeah.
was third
One
place.
emote
I'll
that describes it.
right one emote that describes it. What
Oh,
is that? Is
Kai
that
and his
angry? Is that
new
laughing?
emotes.
I'm
He's
not
so
really
happy
sure.
It's
about it.
Blastermax emote. It's not my emote, but
Oh.
that's what describes it the best because you missed out
Yeah.
one spot from the money. How do you feel about that? Not receiving any money from a competition, being
Oh,
the
no,
bubble man.
I really don't give a fuck about the money, to be honest. Like, I mean, not that I'm like a high roller or something like that, but I didn't really give a shit about the money when I was playing that. You know, I mean, it would have been a little bit of an ego boost, or you're in the money positions and all the rest of that. But yeah, I mean, going into the tournament, like I remember, like day one qualifiers and stuff like that. It really swung quite weirdly because everyone kind of had their idea of who they thought would be at the top and stuff like that. And then you have your day one seeding, and then everyone's saying, "Oh, Scotty's going to be in the top four and stuff like that," because I was the only like well-known player, so to speak, that actually played in the seeding maps. And then everyone else smashed my times. I got seventh, I believe, in seeding.
Top 8
And
you are.
then realized, well, not realized, saw how good a lot of the British players were. You know, we had a lot of strong representation, especially from England. Quite a few Scottish guys in the top 32 eventually, Irish people, a few Wales folk, and didn't have any Northern Irish in the final, but I think we only did have one or two of them playing because of Sniper. So we're gonna shout at him for that. But anyway, before we go on to bullying anyone, yeah, I ended up just missing out on the top eight and a double finalist against Magpie, who ended up, I believe, going out in the top eight or something like that. So Sabre and Magpie went through in my match, and I went out, which I was a little bit disappointed by, but you know, shit happens when you've not played the game for over a year. So I mean, I will be disappointed, but you know, when you take a little bit of a step back, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, you know, I'm not as pissed at myself. But I mean, I suppose that leads us in a little bit to a topic which we were going to discuss in some form. Of course, it is a regional event, so uh, it's not an international event that's earning international attention. But did Turbo? You were casting it, and Shorty, did you get to watch the event at all of BIPC? My glorious and then not so glorious comeback.
Very importantly, firstly, I fixed my internet issues. I know why it happened. I just couldn't.
VPN.
No, it's just I need a proper I need a proper wireless adapter, and I tried out a different one right now, and apparently that one is also shit. I just need to buy a new one. I mean, I'm using my phone now again, which is always working for some stupid reason. But yeah, I did actually tune into the grand final, I think, and I was like, wait, where's Scotty?
Oh, wow.
I'm glad you think so highly of me.
I don't know. I kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say I expected you to get top four, but I thought you probably have a chance at getting top four.
I didn't expect it, to be honest.
I'm not
I
sure what
mean,
I expected, to be honest. I mean, top four was possible, but it wasn't. But it definitely wasn't going to be easy.
I expected you reaching semifinals. That was my expectation. But there's like Boss Bass, Wizzy, all those new players who are really strong. And then, of course, the Giga Chat pack and also Saber, who is really strong. Maybe not on dirt, but on the other styles. So that was like, okay, they will be ahead of you. I also thought that Dwinjo goes way further than that. I think he already went out in round 3 as well,
Yeah,
or 2 even. Quite
or maybe
unfortunate.
3. Yeah.
But I mean, despite that, we can just say, dude, Scotty, what a great performance. I mean, you played against some of the newcomers, just booting up the game again after playing for not over a year. or maybe like some months, maybe you've played some CPS. That is a good performance, dude. You can be proud of that. Very, very nice.
I like the kind of neutral but also slightly confused face. Like, what am I supposed to do with this feedback now? What?
Yeah, continue
Is
playing.
this actually going to be nice, or is there
It
going
is
to be
really
like
good,
a little
man.
bit of venom coming at the end of it? I'm just
I
waiting.
couldn't get top 8 or top 9 in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, going into it, this event, the main thing this event showed me, of course, I was going into it, for myself. I was wanting to know if I could compete against the top people in Britain, and also to kind of place yourself. I mean, a lot of the old gods of the UK, I've never played against. I've never played against Saber. I've never played against Jono. In fact, I think I've maybe played against him once. Never played against Hotspot. And I've not played against any of these new UK guys. So it was very much interesting for me to see who I would be going up against, and how I was going to perform against them. And yeah, of course, I mean, I typically always have my problems in these sort of matches, so it didn't go ideally to plan. But the one thing I'm happy to see is I'm not just getting beaten by people who I already knew were going to be, I would put above myself, like a Saber, like a Pack, and so on and so forth. That did end up getting beaten by the likes of Magpie, who is certainly as a player that I didn't know too much about. I know a few of the players through the UK scene have really been coming up through the last the last few years since the new game. So it's really nice to see that there's a lot of new blood coming into the UK scene, and a big amount of credit goes to the UK Discord team for that. I mean, the likes of Zephyr, Jay, I believe, who was it again? Killjoy is also working a lot on there, and also Aceric, who came in and has been helping a lot in the UK scene. Which I was
Even
like,
though he's
wait,
from Austria.
yeah, I was like, wait, what are you doing here? But
From
big
Porsche.
shout outs to them for really putting in a lot of effort to it. And I mean, as to a question you guys kind of, or at least Erwin says to me earlier, as to whether I will keep playing. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep playing Trackmania. The main thing for me, as long as there's tournaments which catch my interest, then I'll play. The 24-hour race caught my attention, and I didn't realize the sign-ups were going to fucking fill up in 2 hours. So I would like to play that. However, I will not be able to, as I did not sign up in time. I think we're like 4th in the fucking and what is it, the waiting list. But I mean, the likelihood of getting into a highly contested event like that is going to be very slim. But yeah, I don't know if I'll keep playing. I don't know if there's much else on the horizon that I feel like putting my time into.
Too bad though. I mean, there's a lot of tournaments that are coming up, but there's also the 24-hour race that Lux is mentioning. Or could also be a good opportunity for you to come back, but I see why you're not playing, because you don't have that spark of motivation coming up only when it's really like, okay, I have a chance here, and I maybe also have fun playing and proceeding through the tournament, whereas you can in Solary Cup that is taking place, you can already go out in the round of 8 with that, because it will be just way more stacked. But I mean, regardless, the English scene looked very strong, or looks very strong. They're old and new players coming back, Jono. And there's also of course Safer Chris, who was surprisingly in the final, kind of also lurked his way up there. I thought that he will not make it into the final. I think he was beating Jono, actually, or Jono was in the final, right? Jono was 3rd and Chris got 4th.
Maybe
And
Hotspot, I believe.
Hotspot, yeah, true. Hotspot was also one of the boomers, but it's just great to see that there's a shift in the community, but also new players are still coming. That's very nice.
Yeah, I think regarding Scotty playing more, I think I can kind of relate to that a little bit, because it comes down to track style a little bit. I think, since we have like the same tech background, it's fine to have like not full tech maps, but looking at like German Cup and now the British Cup, you can see that those kind of maps are very competitively built, and you don't really have too many competitions going in that kind of style. I mean, at least that's how I'm feeling. I don't I don't really know. Like a lot of maps go into like not like roughly shaped maps and not like super smooth like those. I don't know, but I wouldn't really know that many tournaments where you can like participate with having this kind of competitive focused map style.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for me personally, just a quick note on that. I think it's a lot about the map changes, the map styles, even if we think of the term mixed, have evolved a lot since the start of Trackmania 2020. Now that people know a lot more about ice, they know a lot more about reactor boosts and such. And now, obviously, with the addition of water within the past year or so, and plus the integration of that, people are learning how to integrate these into competitive maps. And what that leads to is you have a boomer like me coming back after more than a year out, then I am very behind the curve. You know, I'm very behind the level of which everyone else has managed to reach on ice, or the knowledge they have with how to transition through different turns using reactor boosts, or how I bounce through, pardon me, how I bounce through water, how I deal with that sort of thing. This isn't me complaining. I'm just saying that mixed style has evolved over the past year or two, and as such, because I was talking to people about this when we were talking about the 24-hour race, as I would love to have the 24-hour races of old and just what I would call the classical mix style. So dark tech, full speed RPG. But I know a few things that were stopping some of the boomers, the old boomers I speak to, is they're like, fuck, there's going to be ice in this. And there probably is. And they're like, oh, dreading it because they've not played the game in such a long time, Not that this is a bad thing, and certainly, you go with the times with mixed, but it's more that, like, say for example, when I talk about maybe going to play future tournaments, if I was to go and play a Trackmania Open Grand League, I would have to spend a lot of time getting up to speed on everything that I've not played, I've not really tried. Plastic, fucking water, ice, and it's just personally, I don't think I really have the time for that or the motivation to do more than what everyone else is doing because they've been playing it over the past year or two. But I mean, this isn't me making excuses. As I said, if I simply don't want to play it, then I won't play it. But it's nice to see that the game is evolving with its mix style. I personally missed old mix style. Just the I would say the traditional kind of four styles of the game. Uh, that's what I miss a little bit. But I mean, I don't think it's as much of a bad thing that the game is still continuing with mixed, but in a different form a little bit.
Well, I mean, the game is just evolving, and since you didn't play, you cannot expect that somewhat nothing is happening. Also, tech maps have evolved. Also, other maps have evolved in the last couple of years. I mean, if you see the maps from 2006 versus the maps from 2012, and then from 2012 to 2017, 18, the map looked extremely different. And you just have to go through that process as a player, and you cannot expect that you're like, okay, yeah, you know what, I'm not gonna play because there is ice in there or plastic. Of course, I can understand that, but then you have to pick it up or just have to accept. But I think what it makes it really hard, and that's why I can also understand you and also Pinda who's saying that in the chat, is that ice is extremely hard to learn. You really have to have a feeling for that when you slide out, when you lose the gear, how you go into an ice slide and stuff, and also on plastic, how the acceleration works, when you gear up, when you want to avoid steering. It's a little bit like dirt, but it sometimes also feels very different. So I'm with you on that side, but well, then maybe we also talked about that ice kind of also destroys a competitive map because the discrepancy just gets really high or large. Yeah, maybe a mapper should then not add more than one small ice section on the map, as we have that also in the Trackmania Grand League, or we had that. I mean, the maps right now look a bit different.
We're gonna come to that later, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing with ice, like if you're talking about the 24-hour race, for example, then I'm definitely with Scotty. I don't, I mean, it's really hard to put it into words because I really do not hate ice, even though it might sometimes come across like that, because every single time people see me or like hear me talking and playing ice maps is in an environment which I don't think suits ice maps. So like cup of the day formats, for example. I just don't think that ice as a surface with how the lines and everything works is really like well suited for fast learning and for cup of the day and rounds formats. That's why I'm like not very happy most of the time playing ice maps, except the last one. But yeah, with ice, it's like it really comes down to how it's integrated in the maps, because it's something you can maybe compare with RPG pods in a little way, because different styles mean that you can the amount of time you can gain or lose on ice is bigger in one ice slide is bigger than in one or two drifts, for example. So you got to balance that somehow, like it's same with RPG pods, for example. In RPG pod, if you're good, you're gonna gain way more time than you can lose on in tech, for example. Like some like relatively speaking, so ice pods or RPG pods usually in the 24-hour race are just shorter than the other styles to just balance that out a little bit. And that's something that I would also want with ice, because in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to say, yeah, okay, we have like 10 seconds ice and then 10 seconds tech and then 10 seconds still, because that's just not how it works in reality.
Yeah.
If you do it like that, then ice is obviously dominant, even though it's the same length. But yeah, it's weird, like there are definitely maps where ice has been integrated really well in the route, where I'm like, yeah, this is a proper mixed map. This is a really nice ice slide. This works out well also for round space and stuff like that. But there are also like bad examples. So it's especially with like no train beforehand and the commitment of 24 hours, you can very easily get frustrated with the ice pod if you don't like it or if it's bad, or
But you can learn it.
either of those. Or yeah, you can, but like maybe the ice ball is just way too long, and you're just losing on the ice everything, and you get frustrated. I'm not saying that it has to
It
be
can be on other
justified, but
parts as well.
yes, yeah, obviously it can happen with other parts as well. I'm just saying it's more likely to happen with ice probably, but
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
that doesn't really matter. Just saying that it can happen with anything, but yeah.
I mean, with any sort of mixed style, when you think back to any tournament which has tried to have a mixed style based maps, your weekly races, your I don't know, Four Styles Cup, your what was the other one that was in Trackmania 2 that I'm forgetting?
The
You
spam race.
yeah, well, the weekly races, the
Weekly
Four Styles
races.
Cup,
The FP Cup you had
24-hour
there.
races, these sort of thing. Oh, SEL. That's what I was looking to.
I have it from Frostbuilder.
Yeah, the most important thing has always been to have a well balanced map. That's what I especially liked about the old SEL maps, as you would have a tech, dirt, and full speed section, and you could even have it in the same map in a sense where the player who is specializing on that surface or style is clearly having an advantage, but not an insurmountable advantage. Like they would only have an insurmountable advantage if they're also at a high level in something else. So Papu, for example, might have an insurmountable advantage because he has a very great advantage on dirt, and he is also able to keep up to speed on tech. That's what made these sort of hybrid players so powerful. And that's also, I mean, unless you're having a specific type of 24-hour race, like, the DDE used to do the 6-hour races where you would have one tech server, one full speed server, one dirt server. Or, some organizers have just run a 24-hour dirt endurance race, is that just to ensure it's all properly balanced. And as Shorty says there, you can only, if you drive it correctly, you can only lose so much in one section as you can gain in another, basically. If you're good on tech but not good on ice, you can gain time back on tech that you lost on ice, instead of it just being you fuck up the tech section and there's no respawns and there's a speed check and then you're out 15 seconds. You know what I mean? And then the ice turns just one bobsleigh, for example. You know what I mean? Like it all just needs to be well balanced and well made. But normally the mappers they turn to with these sort of tracks do bring it out very well, I must say. And I've always been very impressed by the 24-hour race maps, which have always came out. One thing I will tell you, which made me very sad when I looked out when the 24-hour race thingy kind of surfaced up again, is that the site that hosts all the results and all that of the old 24-hour races from DDE isn't up anymore. So that's gone, and all the rankings and results and like who played, where they placed, and all the rest of that's all gone. You can like go way back machine, and that only goes back to like 2017, and that's it. But yeah, that sucked. But at least I think I know the right people to ask about that. But whether it'll
You
actually
probably
come,
do, yeah.
yeah,
It's
well,
doable.
yeah, it is doable, but it's also to make sure if they actually have access to that information. But we'll see. I'll maybe look into that in my spare time. But it did kind of bring me back to a little bit of a thing. I know we spoke about this before, and a lot of people didn't think it's so important, but I really miss being able to look back on stuff like this. Like you can't really view LAN event results before 2018. Unless it's on esports earnings, maybe, or if someone's managed to hash something into Wikipedia from a fucking YouTube video or something like that. The 24-hour races ones have disappeared. Your CPS results are all gone. STC stuff's all gone. Your old TMM stuff's all gone. So yeah, that's something that made me a little bit sad when I was thinking about that the past few days. But yeah, I mean, I hope the Wikipedia stuff manages to spool up a little bit more, and either they get access to more information. I do feel like we're kind of losing a big chunk of Trackmania's history, and it does make me quite sad.
Funnily enough, in the past week, I was remembering back a really really old Trackmania event from 2012 that I like to this day really really like. I will never forget this event. Basically, I think, and I'm honestly at the point where I think I'm just gonna rehost this event because I just liked it so much. Do you? And the sad thing is what you said. Like it's really difficult to find anything about it. The results are basically non-existent. They are like there's a YouTube playlist with like the finals of each style, but only 7 out of like 40. And yeah, it's just you can't find anything. The Wayback Machine of the website doesn't even work, so it's impossible to find anything. Even though I know that a certain video exists, I'm just impossible to. It's impossible to find, even when you know that a certain video existed. It's so sad actually, and it
If
was
you know
such
who
a great
made it, you
event.
can ask them about it.
Huh? Who can I?
If you know who made it, because I remember
No,
there's an old Trackmania video, and I basically found who made it,
no,
and
I
they
have no
privatized
fucking
it.
idea.
So that's a shame.
It's like the event was called Olympics Games Trackmania by Team Addict Gaming, and the way it worked, you had 20 events in like different like. The best part is like, like listen, 20 events in individual are planned on dirt, tech, full speed RPG, and coast.
Cold. Wait, what? Why coast, dude?
I don't know why, but I'm having like the original Mania Act 2 article, and the only comment is by Warmy, Dirt, Tech, Full Speed RPG, and Coast. So funny to add stadium styles and Coast, a whole new environment. That's why the interest I give is 0.
Coast is great. Coast is good. Coast is easy.
But the best part was so you like had 20 you had 20 different like individual events like maps, and you could only like pick 3 as a player where you participated. You had the map, you could train it a little bit. You had a semi-final, you had 1 round on the map, boom, done. You had 1 final, 1 round, boom, done.
Love it.
And you had like tech short and tech long, like on the 3 minutes map, it kind of works, like 1 round. When you had a 20-second tech map, 16 players just driving 1 round and it's over. It was amazing. I loved it. Yeah.
It sounds absolutely terrible.
Yeah, but it was so funny.
But
And
just
you
a
had
little
like
thing.
really garbage maps as well.
Not sure
Just
if
a
this
little
would
thing
work.
about this when we talk about the history of Trackmania, and I seem to remember when I brought this up last time, as I said, people didn't think it was very important in that kind of sense. But is there really a need to kind of preserve this information? Is there a need to get this information back? Like I was speaking to one of the old, Zephyr, Chris, one of the old boomers from the UK scene, who was looking for like the old, essentially looking to contact who had access to the databases for the websites that have since went down, like SDC, like
Wow, you dig very deep.
yeah, that's the problem, is that you do need to dig very, very deep for these sort of information. So, I mean, obviously the people are out there, but they're so disconnected from the game now, or no one knows who they are, kind of thing. So, like, it'll be. But is there a need to put effort into this? Do you think?
Well, I mean, I some dislike nostalgic at one point. Of course, it's nice to look back, but for what? I mean, you can also talk about it. Why do you want to have it in one
How can you
format?
talk about it if you don't know what happened?
But why? Like for whom? Like who cares about an event that happened in 2012 or about an event that happened in 2017? Of course, it's history, but it's time to look into the future and not just dig in the past. Go ahead, move on. Of course, it's great to look back, but at some point, it's a bit too much. The effort spent, you know, as if you
Yeah.
have also not every or not only access to all of your memories. You don't have that. You can also not call someone and say, "Yo, where's
It's
my memory?"
at some point we gotta think like the kind of events we talk about are literally something that have nothing to do with like modern Trackmania esports anyway. Like even for like statistics, no one would ever look at those events that we are
Yeah, people
talking
would not
about.
care. It's only for
So
you.
yeah, exactly. People wouldn't care about it. If you're talking about TMGL and like in like 10 years and still have TMGL, you still want the statistics of the first TMGL season,
Yeah.
in my opinion, because it
Mhm.
makes sense for statistics and stuff like that. It's interesting. But for like these very old events, like no one cares about them except like us and the ones that were there. So we kind of still have the memories. It would obviously be nice just for nostalgical reasons to be able to like see the full results, but how long are you gonna remember those again after seeing them? It's if it's only nostalgia, then I'm like, yeah, it doesn't have to be there. It's obviously would still be better to have them than not having them, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's a big loss either.
Yeah, I also think it's not a big loss for most or for almost every prestigious tournament that has happened in the past. There is a result, but well, I mean, I also don't remember what races I've played back then. The spams weekly races. There are probably also VODs out there, but why should I dig in there? It's time to
You
move
still have the
on.
memories of you playing them, of your experiences with
Nah,
the
hardly I
events. That
have.
yeah, but like at least a little bit, and I
Yeah.
think that it's about having those instead of just being able to look at random results of the
Yeah.
events now. Like
You should
Yeah.
there's no need to really share them with others. Of course, it's great to have them somewhere to maybe tell your kids at some point, but who really cares about a
maybe
50-year tournament?
Virtual disagrees with that. He needs this data. He needs it for his
Well,
videos.
that's Marius with his archive.
Oh no, yeah. If you ever need something or any video, I think Marius might have it.
Well, there you go. That's how you find your video you're looking for. Just ask Marius.
Maybe. Nah, I don't. I
But
don't actually think so.
do you know what the kind of way I look at this for Trackmania is I do feel there is a consensus of uh that this isn't as important, but also I feel part of that is down to the fact that we've never had it in Trackmania. We've never had this sort of, I don't know, archiving, record keeping, whatever you would call it. We are now starting to have it through the likes of Liquipedia and all the rest of that. But I mean, it kind of leads me into comparisons when I look at something like, say, I don't know, Counter Strike or whatever.
You cannot compare Counter-Strike with
Uh,
Trackmania,
blah,
though.
blah, 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 blah. I'll
It's not
get to that.
possible.
Okay. So it's
Both
not
are
about
video games.
it's not about the scale of the game. It's about the fact that the people who were part of the communities at the time back in, I don't know, fucking 2004, 2005 or whatever, they started that process then, and it's obviously continued for all the different years. But here's a kind of problem I have which I do feel is relevant to how Trackmania works, and even now when I talk about something like archiving, is that you have is if we look at it in kind of terms of storylines, right? Where would you find any information about who's been the world champions about that? That's easy because people have done videos about that. Likes of Eirik have done videos about that. But there's nothing to show you how it happened. You know, there's nothing to kind of like say for example, let you say we all know all of these kind of good players. We know why they're good. We've seen these kind of videos before they get took down. We've seen these websites before they disappeared into the abyss. You know, we've seen all this shit before it went down, or we've heard it from people who came before us. You know, who were in the competitive scene before me. You know, that's how I found out a lot of the ESL UK stuff was from the UK guys who've since came back and told me about a lot of that because I couldn't find that anywhere. You know, and players are coming back, and I'm getting told by these players that, like, say for example, Hotspot. I'd never played with Hotspot. I'd never seen one of his videos, never seen one of his results. Yet I was told that he was a fantastic player. But if I was to tell a new player that, how are they going to find anything about why this person should be good? In fact, if he turns up on server and just smashes everyone, and he's like, okay, Google's into his name and finds nothing. You know, or like, what about your old world champions? You maybe find one video done by Eirik, and because they
Haki
don't play
Jr., yeah.
anymore, they get forgotten. You know, like that's the part of things where I feel would be important is how these players who have contributed a lot to the game have no legacy anymore because nothing's been kept from when they were at their peak. You know, nothing's left. You know, like who's seen anything about when Bergie won the world championship? I think there's like one video out there. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing else that surrounds that. There's nothing to show whether Bergie was really the top player at that time or if someone else had a slump and just fucked up in the final, for example. You know, there's a lot of contextual information that's now just completely gone to time, and that's what I do envy when you look at a game which has had a statistical database for a long time, is that you have contextual information which, I mean, sure, might not be directly relevant to, like, okay, that person's not playing anymore, so sure, you might not need all that information about them now, but it's just as much as why it's important to preserve history when we talk about any other subject that you would be interested in preserving history about. I mean, otherwise, it's like saying, I mean, why the fuck do we bother writing books? You know, like if we don't want to record our thoughts or record storylines or record what's happened in the world, you know, like that's the kind of angle I take it from. I mean, sure, your smaller events like your fucking, like, I don't need to know every result of Spam's weekly race. You know what I mean? But I do want to know how the gamers assemblies went. I want to know how the world championships went. I only found out through the Wikipedia recently that someone from fucking like Israel and Saudi Arabia played in the world championships once. You know, I had no idea they even played, no idea how they qualified. I found out R2K, you know, the known caster, you know, he's played with the UK scene for a long time. Found he played in a world championship before, and it's like, wait, you know, this is new even to me, and you guys know how deeply invested I am in the scene. So when I find these nuggets of information, and like it disappoints
Nugget
me that
also is really good player.
I can't find anything else. You know, it's because no one who came before us bothered to keep up with this. You know.
Yeah, well, but I mean, they're also it's now way easier to do than beforehand, and maybe people were just not up for that. I mean, I think that I don't know. I think that it's good to keep the past, but at some point, it also doesn't really matter too much. Like, if there's one person, of course, it's cool that he has made it, the Saudi Arabian or whatever, but. Well, but then I could also like watch and see when San Marino scored their last goal. You know, it's like it's an information that kind of, for what do I need it? That's the point. Is it really from importance? Of course, somewhat it is, but is it really worth it for the development of the game? You know, if you want to find the development of a player, you will eventually find something. Maybe not from the very old boomers like Hotspot that you haven't found something about him, but other than that, well, I mean, they can also tell you then if you are really interested in that, you know, because they will not forget if they win a prestigious tournament.
I mean, the thing is, if you're talking about Gamers Assembly and these kind of events, I think they actually are, or at least like used to be, all the information always kept from the Gamers Assembly themselves, like from the site that like John hosted always. I don't know when exactly it happened, but I think like some old results were like taken out of it at some point because they started using like a new system. Not sure what happened with the old ones, but for like the niche tournaments, obviously no chance. Somebody would have had to do it, and we know how it's like. Trackmania always was kind of scattered just because the way the game works with different styles and everything. So bringing everything together under one site and keeping data there would have never really worked to begin with. I think at least at that time there just wasn't the need for that. Like nobody ever cared about that.
Yeah.
Like a dirt player didn't care about tech as much as a tech player never cared about dirt. Yet like maybe 2 or 3 people that played both and cared a little bit about both. But unless, like apart from that, how many events were actually big enough to like really be considered by the community to be big enough where it would even make sense to do that? Like Gamers Assembly, yes, World Cup, yes, but then already it starts to be like, yeah, which events are prestigious enough or not?
Yeah, I
And
think
yeah, the
Phoebe has.
times back then also were so different, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you just said it, Turbo. It's nowadays it's so much easier to keep this kind of data.
Everyone is just
Everyone can
streaming.
do
Yeah,
that.
everyone is just streaming, doing all of that. But I think Phoebe has a good idea. But the thing is, what does it lead to? Like, what does it bring? You're gonna look onto it once, and you're like, cool, nice. You maybe get a little bit of nostalgic feelings, and then it's like, so
It
of
can be
course.
very useful, like Scotty said.
But for what will it be useful? Like,
For storytelling, like videos.
wow, but oh, this guy was fourth in a tournament in 2012. Or
Yeah, I mean no, but if you would announce a new player to your roster, like if you decide, yeah, I'm
then
like
he can tell as
I'm
well what is.
yeah, he
Yeah, but
can tell as if he
that's like
remembers himself. You wanted some visuals. You don't just you just don't stand him in front of a camera and talking. You just have the scenes playing in the background and something like that. Like social media stuff. You need content for the social media stuff.
I mean, I think there's a lot of use for it because I mean, otherwise you just have people coming up and saying they won whatever they fucking wanted, because
Yeah, but
we
do you
can't
know
say
that
anything
people didn't
against
do
it.
that and stuff? People can
Of
confirm and
course,
stuff.
like people can confirm if they're still around and all that. But like I said, my main kind of view of it is it's much the same of like why would you ever look at a book of something that happened a long time ago? Like why would you give a fuck about a TV show's season that happened like I don't know, like way before like today's content, for example. And it's like it's not going to be for everyone. And I think I can clearly see that from you that you're not as interested in looking back as past your kind of singular glance. I mean, personally, I am. Hence why I do talk about this kind of stuff a little bit more. And I mean, that's something at least I always try to like. Whenever if someone was to ever ask me about something or ask me about someone, I like to be able to talk a little bit more about it. That this player didn't just pop up out of thin air and like Spam didn't just come out of nowhere and win the 2012 World Championship. Like these players didn't just get fucking made in a jar and like run out and win tournaments. You know what I mean? Like I like to be able to contextualize things for people and also for people to be able to, if they want to find out more information about some of their favorite players, like as again, Spam's a perfect example as he's been playing for a long time and his peak was a long time ago. His peak was 10 years ago when he won the World Championship. And it's like, who's going to be able to find information about Spam's, even his tournament wins very poorly documented, like there is people out there who would be interested in seeing something like that. But I do agree in the kind of sense where I think it's just simply you put up some sort of kind of dump, so to speak, that you can just put all the information in that you are like things you have access to, stick them all in there, and let everyone do that. And then I mean, you could even hand that over to the Wikipedia team.
No.
And if they wanted to, or get a bunch of people together who want to input this stuff into Wikipedia,
No, I just Yeah, I just remember the best example. I'm not sure if you did that, but like I did enjoy a lot of the score esports videos on YouTube where they talk about the background and careers of like certain players, and they obviously start from the way back. If you would want to do that for a Trackmania player, you would need exactly this
Mhm.
kind of information to do that. And I'm not that interested in like history or stuff like that, but thinking
Mhm.
that I really enjoyed those kind of videos about CS:GO player,
Mhm.
Rocket League, even League of Legends or fucking Dota. I've never even played the game. I did enjoy those like history videos about their careers, and I
Mhm.
mean that's what you would need that for, to be honest. So it
Yeah.
does have its uses, I think.
I mean, because like I ran into this problem because what I was planning to do when the Trackmania News website got opened up, because I was invited to come on as a writer there. One of the things which I planned to do was to do a kind of article series about players who mattered and were a big part of their respective competitive discipline, shall we say, but were not around anymore. You know, they'd left to do X, Y, and Z. They were, they were a big part of the game, but they're now no longer a part of the game. You know, I'd got a good part of a way through an article with Wally. I'd opened up talks with Tamarillo. You know, I was wanting to get in contact with a lot of people. You know, I had a list of people I was looking at. You know, almost like a "Where are they now?" kind of thing. You know, but the problem is, like for example, when I was talking to Tamarillo, I had no idea what he's done before the video. Like he's got some of the more popular ESWC videos from 2013 and 14, if I remember correctly. But before that, I have to rely on him quite a lot for that. You know, it's the same with if I want to go back for some of the other players. You know, like say for example, I did get access to Frostbeard. You know, if he did ever come back or made himself available now. You know, Frostbill, like people still ask, you know, if he's coming back sometimes, which I mean is a bit wishful thinking, I think. But yeah, I mean, like
He probably
how
has everything saved, just like
yeah,
Marius.
he probably still has things saved, but it's like, how would I be able to tell someone how Frostbill became like really popular or how it became really good? You know, I can only maybe try and like remember a few things myself from the later years, but there's nothing left from the early years in that apart from like, you know, a 1v1 against Karyan that he played or whatever, you know, or an occasional
that
fucking
synchronic crash, yeah.
144p, you know, like clip on someone's camera phone from some fucking, you know, thing
Yeah, I
wherever.
mean
But
that kind of shows just how old the game is, though. A little bit, you
yeah,
know. You
yeah,
can't
that's
really do
true.
anything about that.
But that's just how it is, you know. It, it just not everything will be there. Of course, you cannot tell that. I think you go a bit too far there. You know, I will just tell, okay, this guy did this and that and blah blah blah. But I would not just want to have it on paper. You know, it just happened, and if it's not there, then well, whatever. I would not just try to contact even the server provider and do this. I mean, the only thing that you could do is like, okay, guys, you know what? We have a website. You can dump all of those things here, and then you can evaluate it. But I think in my opinion, you go a bit too far with that.
In what respect?
Yeah, to just that you have to, or you want to tell that story, and that's why you have to, and you want to, yeah, restore or get this data, like
Hmm.
from the tournaments and stuff. I
Yeah,
think it's great, but I think it's not really 100% necessary. But I see where you're coming from. But I think it might be a bit too much.
that's fair enough. I mean, in terms of at least moving on from that topic, in that kind of sense, I think we've kind of said our piece on that, shall we say? And yes, Phoebe has rumbled me. The only reason I ever played BIPC is so I could actually be recorded in Trackmania history, so people would know I existed. But yeah, that's absolutely true. By the way, that is a fact of science. I mean, going back to one little thing we were talking about, the 24-hour race. First of all, I mean, there is 60 team slots for the 24-hour race. I believe 6 players for each team, and 50 slots have went to open sign-ups, and 10 slots have went to streamer teams. So first of all, are any of you guys going to be playing it?
I'm cussing.
Nope.
You're casting a 24-hour race.
Yeah, but we are like 8 casters, and we just swap around. So we get not even sure. I just leak it. I don't care if it's. We will there will be a 24-hour stream on the Trackmania esports channel, and casters will just swap around at the time. There are also like new casting talents in there, which is very good. Newer casters, and I will also like take over in like 2, 3, 4 hours, something like that, and just have some fun with Geek, with QDC. I don't know with whom I will cast. It will just be great. It's more like an entertaining rather than a cast, because you cannot cast 24 hours. You know, you're just gonna at some point chip in.
Something I wonder, especially, I mean, you might actually know that. So before the 24-hour race got announced, there was a new patch for the game, which finally, you gotta say finally, because it's been in the game for very long, fixed the bug where in endurance races, the longer you drive, you would get like freezes that the longer you drive would get worse and worse and worse. And events like endurance races and TMFL have been suffering from that very hardly. And obviously, in a 24-hour race, that would be a killer. And I think after that got announced that that bug finally got fixed, and it actually is fixed. Like people tested that as well. The 24-hour race got announced, and as far as I know, I could be wrong. That's why I'm asking now, because I don't want to spread anything false here. But I think that they didn't actually plan on hosting the event for full 24 hours, but because the patch got launched, they just decided that okay, might as well then do it for 24 hours. And I mean, I would need more information about that, but that made me a little bit skeptical about how well they are actually prepared for hosting a 24-hour race. Obviously, only time to tell, like it could, and I hope so that it's going to be very successful. But it just was bad timing for me anyway, so it just kind of didn't work out. And I guess I'm not playing this time, but not because of that. It just timing wise and team wise, we just kind of also missed the deadline a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also checking right now my top secret Excel with all the tournaments and things that I could leak or could also not leak. Actually, there's a lot of things that also have been leaked in the last couple of days. You know, the Cup of the Day. Then also there is this Flag Rush tournament coming up this weekend. But you know, there's TMFL at 15 on the 13th. Then there's CPS at 16, 18, 20, and 21. And just so many things. Also, the ESA speedrun from Rasta. So
Yes.
this 24-hour race has a lot of, yeah, it's just before everything, and then there are 10 million events just after 15. It's incredible.
It's gonna be interesting to say the
That's
least.
always the way Trackmania has been, though, hasn't it? It's like it always comes in very, very fast blocks. It's like you have no events for like months, and then okay, everything's coming at the same time, kind of thing. That's kind of what it always feels like. But it's good to see that there is not just a lot of events, as you're kind of mentioning there, but a lot of varied events. Pardon me. So, but I'm certainly happy that if it has been a happy little accident, as Pinda and Phoebe mentioned there, that's allowed us to open up this kind of idea to have these sort of events again. I do wonder if I just saw you Cosmo there mentioning something else, but I wonder if that sort of thing could also be patched for TMNF or TM2. Absolutely not a priority, as not a lot of people really play those games anymore. But
TMNF event. There's TMNF competitive center. It's like
but yeah, I mean, if it's something that's easier to fix now that they know what the issue is with the multi-lap script or whatever it was that was
Oh,
causing
they
the
did
issue.
fix it already.
So is it just fixed for this game, or is it fixed for all the games?
It's a bug only in this game. So
Right,
like
okay.
the issues with TM2 and stuff like that are different kind of issues.
Okay. Well, it's good to hear that at least we're going to be able to move forward in this game onto something
There's
new.
also no saying at all how well the servers are gonna hold up. I don't know how they're gonna do it with the 24-hour race. If they're gonna go the old route with like restarting the server every hour, I don't think so. I don't know though.
They only done that once, did they not?
No, the very very first 24-hour races always used to do that, like in Nations Forever. and then DDE started, and DDE started were the first ones that like had the new system where they never restarted the servers and just seamless driving. Like before that, it wasn't like that, and then they had to like go back to restarting the server for 1 year because the servers were just broken. That's what happened. And
I mean,
there's just no saying if these kind of things that were broken in TM2 might also be broken in the new game, which is kind of unlikely since the netcode is basically completely revamped. But who knows? We will find out.
Mania Planet is the future.
Yeah.
Stop memeing around, man.
I mean, the only thing that does concern me when we talk about the 24-hour race is I'm a little bit haunted from the ones that came after Mania Planet 4's initiation for the
Yeah.
24-hour races. That I remember the first one, the plugin had been revamped, and then everything just went to shit anyway. And then
Imagine.
it was coming back. There'd been updates. There'd been it'd been rebuilt from the ground up through the script. It had been tested. But then, it broke, I think, a few hours into the event and things like that. So, I mean, I have absolutely no idea, like, where the problem was caused from in these sort of things. So I'm not going to comment on that side of things, whether it was a script issue, whether it was a coding issue of the game, server issue, whatever. I've absolutely no idea. So I'm not going to talk out masks. I wouldn't know what I'd be talking about. I would only say from this, it does concern me because I don't know what the status of, how things would be working in this new game, because, I've seen issues like, for example, with a lot of people on the same server in this game as well. I imagine there won't be as many people on the same server in this one, but you're still going to have a lot of things getting kept track of at the one time. And, I just simply hope it can keep up with everything and that you do see a return of the 24-hour race. But one thing I did find that was quite interesting about this, though, but I completely understand it. When this had been announced, a lot of people were like tagging spam, like, "Oh, does this mean the return of the weekly
Yeah,
races?"
true. And he
And
just
he's
ditched
like,
it.
"No, I'm not doing that again. I've not got time for that and all the rest of that," which I did smile about. But yeah, I mean, like
That was hilarious. Yeah, it was
clearly he's
hilarious.
not interested in reviving the weekly race, but that is, I mean, the weekly race, if you get a proper weekly race going and, you manage to advertise it well, that's a fucking free ticket to some good attention going your way, So for any tournament organizers out there, any content creators, you want an extra little bit of attention, looking solely over to the other two people who do actually stream in this podcast, then
Yeah,
there's your
Shorty's
easiest
unfortunately not
excuse.
that active anymore.
Oh well, you're the only one
Not
who can do it
currently, at
then.
least. Yeah, that's
No,
a difficult issue.
I will not host it.
Oh well, there you go. He's spurning his opportunity, guys. He's a scuff content
I mean, I could
creator.
build
So
maps for it.
when it comes to 2022, we know who we're not voting as content creator of the year.
Why should I even be nominated for that?
Yeah, because this is February, so no one's going to remember what happens in February, to be fair. Because
Yeah.
February isn't part of the year. It's only
Yeah,
No
it's
one is
only
gonna
October,
remember that I
November,
wasn't
December.
streaming.
Yeah,
Only have to stream
exactly.
there.
But yeah,
And
I mean,
September also.
like, it is a great idea if people do want to get a little bit extra attention there. Where I mean, not saying like that made Frostbill or that made spam or anything like that, but it was the place to be on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon when he changed it because there was another endurance race on the Sunday afternoon that was competing with it. But we won't talk about that. But yeah, like that, it's like TTCs. That was the place to be.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it might not be a problem for the 24-hour race, but I think you might be a little bit too positive right now because like this freeze issue is fixed doesn't mean that the server stability and performance is like better. So the problem is you still like you can barely have 46 players on the same server running smoothly with Cup of the Day and
Yeah, it
also with
lags
other
anyway.
events. So even if you would want to host like endurance races, which would work fine, you still have the problem, more or less, quote unquote problem. You can't really go above that limit of 64 players. That's kind of the main problem.
I also think that this is going to lag the server because you can already see it in the spammy of the day, for example.
Yes, exactly.
there's still 70, 80 players, and it's lagging like crazy. You know, you have those micro freezes. I hope that they fix it with the update. I haven't played after that, but also like this shows. I think there was also a comment from, was it Ozon or someone else who was commenting beneath that one from spam, saying that there was like a more complex issue behind that and they could only code that out now or figure it out now. I don't know what that was, but this just
That's
shows
probably
how,
the one we're talking about that
yeah,
they fixed.
yeah, but the lag issue for the thing. But
Yes.
this just again shows like how complicated this game is scripted and everything like that, and also how long it loads. It takes like 4 or 5 minutes until everything is loaded. Of course, I also have a lot of replays and skins and all of that, but wow, like I'm sometimes surprised that this game loads longer than, I don't know, Trackmania United or whatever, you know.
I mean, they did also speed up the boot time, the load time from map editor, like
Yeah, they did, but not for
times
the
5 or
starting.
something. So maybe they will also like improve the load times for you at one point. Who knows? It always felt kind of random, to be honest, because I think we once had a discussion that we talked about the loading times of the game, and you were like saying, yeah, it's super long, slow for you, and Mania Planet is like, zack, boom.
Yeah.
And like someone else was saying, yeah, for me it's the opposite, and it didn't really make sense. And someone says, yeah, both is slow. It's that's where I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why is it not consistent?
Yeah,
But what
it's
can
just
you do?
complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated, obviously.
But it's of course also not easy to do those things. I have no clue how you script and how you do what, but I can just imagine that it's quite complicated to do all of that. So I'm not like saying Pippy point, do that correctly.
I mean,
It
the
is what it
code
is.
base of Trackmania is so old, and it just always just extend it and extend it. And I mean, you can see it with the releases always. I'm not blaming them for it at all. It's just how it is, and I don't really view it negative in any way. It's just part of the deal. They just, yeah, there's not just not really time to like really go into the core of the game and just like do something that you like nowadays could do like way better and and way faster. But it would be so much time and effort, and you would have so many bugs to fix afterwards as well. You just don't really do that. You have your game engine, it runs. You just want to add new features, and at some point, usually you would just say, yeah, well, whatever. We just start from new or something like that, and there's just no time for that, and that's just what it is. I think
It is what it
that's
is.
it is what it is, exactly. Like you can still try and improve it, but there's only so much you can improve. You can fix bugs, obviously, but performance-wise, there's only so much you can do. I think in a way, without like investing like years or something like that. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I mean, one of the other things that we were wanting to talk about, since we have covered a little bit about the BIPC and the 24-hour race, is the Trackmania Grand League and its mid-season invitational in particular. And what our kind of thoughts were about that is this is, of course, the first time we're seeing the new system being in place. And it was in place between 32 different drivers with a mix of players from Open Grand League, Trackmania Grand League Challenger, and Trackmania Grand League itself. So you did have some players, whenever you're done there.
Kai is feeding the birds.
Yeah, but we did have some players missing, like so Carl Jr. Yeah.
It really does sound like a bird chirping.
Erwin, I think we need to disable his feed. Erwin. Yeah, so there was a few people missing, but in general we had a very kind of strong field on that, and displaying on some of the maps which have been played through the previous Trackmania Grand League season, and then following that, of course, or maybe even before that, the new maps were all announced, and I don't know if they're all released, but I believe they are.
9 of them are released, not all of them.
Oh yeah, it's the maps for like the first 3 weeks or something like that, I believe. But yeah, anyway. So these maps have all been released. People have seen their first sight of the new format of the game and also the new format of the maps, of course. Now they're just simply an A to B typical rounds format map instead of the multi-lapper. That's a lot's changing up. So essentially, I suppose you can take this as like the pre-season for TMGL. So what's your impression now that we've kind of got started under this new era of Trackmania Grand League's change of
Good.
of clothes, so to speak. It seemed.
It was good. Well, there was only one very, very embarrassing thing on Sunday because Quantum Deathcat, who was my co-caster, couldn't join, and I thought that they're gonna wait for him to join the server, but no, they didn't, and the match already started, and I just didn't notice that the match has started because the match was so bad. The match was so bad. It was such a bad match. Like, it was the 1-0 match. I think Gwen Afi, and also Pack, but Pack played like he had no chance. It was like on one of his worst maps. But he eventually
fourth
managed
player,
to do
no.
that. I don't know what happened there. I didn't. It was way too dank. He was just okay. I cannot join the server. Was texting the Discord. I was just trying to do all of that. Well, but it is what it is, and I think the format is great. I only casted and looked onto day 2, but that was of course also the simulation of a step times 2. But a match, it feels something is missing. You know, you have to win 3 rounds and then you move on. Something is missing there. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the format itself. It's definitely a good
It's a little bit multiplication.
No, but it's a good progress. But you know, you play and every round matters. Like, it's so much pressure when you really have to perform. I can just assume it's very interesting though. I really like it, but it's definitely wild because there are also some strategies around. You know, we have seen players intentionally wanna win this one and then lose the next one, that you like handle down, or just don't play your worst map against someone who is already in the top match, and you don't have a chance to make it into the top match and stuff like that. But what will be a really huge issue is the fact that once you make it to the top 2, that you automatically qualified for the playoffs. That will be a huge problem. The repartition of the points. Why should the medal, the top medal, be worth more than 6 gold medals? That makes absolutely
Well, it's
no
worth
sense.
more than infinity amount of gold medals.
Yeah, but
It just no,
they're just
it makes no
six steps.
sense.
That's what I mean. It just There will be a huge problem, and I can already tell you that there will probably be a shitstorm because of that. Because there's just one player who maybe was lucky, and people have crashed, and that's it's probably one of the main reasons why I think that this format is missing out on something, is the fact that only the first person is getting something out of it. You know?
I think that's fine by me, to be honest. I think one thing the new format definitely makes better is that for you as a viewer, you have a more direct and better way to like cheer on like the one you're watching. And with having different streams, like one stream for each player and stuff like that, it works out really well with the different matches, because you can still, with the plugin from Miss, you can still like see the other matches kind of. But what you want to see is just your player anyway. And instead of just watching your player that might just be in the bottom and having to like maybe risk or like failing early and being out for the rest of the map, it's just, in single rounds again. So like if he crashes around, okay, easy, he's in the next round. So it can, like, it can be like really nice if your player wins against like 15 opponents instead of just 3. But I think it's just so much worse if he just crashes the first round and is out of the whole 6 lap or something like that. That's what I'm not a fan of. And what I really think with the medals is the main problem. It's not that somebody can get lucky or something like that. That's not the thing. I think even if you would just give them points, even if you would assign the medals points, which I think they should do, then you would still have like someone that finishes first will still have enough points probably to just reach top 8 in the end, no matter what he does afterwards. The problem I see is that it's so inviting to cause a lot of drama and a lot of serious drama, because like I said last time already, you're gonna seriously end up with the problem that you're gonna have like 2 or 3 players in the final holding the chance, like, and they already got top 2, so they don't really need the medal anyway. They can do whatever they want the rest of the season after you get top 1 and top 2. You don't care about it anymore, so you don't have the drive, you don't have the same motivation anymore, because you already qualified, right? So why? I mean, obviously you still want to qualify higher, yes, of course, but it's not the same as getting into top 8. And then you're gonna have a match where you have 2 or 3 players that are already qualified and someone that isn't. In a match where the 3 players that are already qualified have no reason to care to win. Like, do you see the match fixing potential? I'm not saying that somebody would deliberately do it, but just if I would be the player in the situation, knowing that if I fuck this up, people are gonna call me match fixing potentially just for me making a mistake, I would already pressure myself because of that. And I think that's a really, really dangerous situation. And I think it could be so much easier, so much more easily avoidable, and have a lot of less potential match fixing situations if you just have a points repetition. That it can be like the kind of unfair points repetition, which I don't really like favoring top 2 players by a lot of points, obviously. But it's still better than just saying, okay, you're top 2, you're automatically safe with your medal because your medal is superior to no matter what else you're gonna do. Like,
Yeah.
it's really dangerous in my opinion. I really, really strongly dislike it. I'm not saying it's the worst ever. I'm not gonna say it's as bad as like point loss or anything like that. This definitely isn't that big of a deal. But I'm just scared of what can happen with that.
I agree with that. Also, like if you go 1-1 and you start in the gold match in match 3, and then you go champion and then gold again, of course, it's different because you lost the match, but there will be some strats around it. But what I didn't like in the MSI is the fact that only top 2 got money. All the other matches were
Okay.
the other matches were meaningless, and it was, yeah, when Pack was in there, I was like, okay, yeah, who cares about it? I was also seeing it in the viewer count. We didn't really have a lot of views because there was also not too much advertisement for this competition, I feel like, again. Maybe that was just on my end, but I hardly recognized that anyone had any info about it. Also, like other things, it's always like that. But even my org didn't know about that. No times were published again, and stuff like that where you can watch it was also released, but also quite late. The Wikipedia page was very nice, but at the end it felt like, why are those people still playing? At the end, it's just meaningless to play out for the 7th, 8th position if they don't want to play those maps for the 10th time anymore. That was maybe
Yeah,
a
at
bit of a
least in the
downside.
MSI, I guess. But in the regular season, those matches still can potentially be important, obviously. But yeah, for the MSI, you didn't really need those matches.
I mean, I was having like a really wild idea about a system because I was trying to think like, because I know some people have already mentioned complaints about the system. I was trying to kind of like try and theorize my way around like a way where you could get a good point standing based upon the level of competition you faced throughout the entire day's worth of events, but also because I initially thought, right, see, instead of having it done by medals, because then you have a little bit of the issues of, okay, you've won all your first 3 matches in champion, but you get a shitty ton of events in the 4th match, and now you're limited to outside the top 4, for example. But I was trying, like, I thought, oh, why don't you just like assign points or medals based upon what their finishing record is, like 5-0 or 4-1? But then I figured that's not really going to work because if you've lost your first match, then you get an easier route to the final. So
Yeah.
you would still be 4-1 rather than someone who's 4-1 from winning everything and then losing the final match. But the only other way I could find about doing that is having like say you do like as if it was just a normal round in cup mode, right? You get 10 points first place, 6 points for second, or 7, whatever you want to do, 4 and 3, whatever the fuck it is, right? And you get a small multiplier, multipliers, depending on what match you're in. If you're in a champion match and you get 10 points, you get, say, I don't know, 20 points. Whereas if you win it in a gold match, you get 18 points or 15 points. Or if you win it in a silver match, you get 12 points, for example, or something like that. Like
Yeah.
that's just
I see, though. It's a
Yeah,
good idea.
that's actually a good
it's
idea.
it's a little bit of a kind of 4-town idea, you know what I mean? But
For house.
yeah, 4-house idea. But I mean, like with some playing around with the numbers, I think that would be nice
It
because
would work. It would be very fair, actually.
you're rewarded for being in a high medal match, like a high medal, you're rewarded for being in champion and getting first or second because you're going to get either at least the same amount of points you would get from winning a gold or silver match or more for winning a champion match. And if you're winning bronze matches and going bronze, silver, gold, and then champion at the end, you're not going to have as much points as someone who's been hovering between gold and champion,
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, to be honest. I'm not sure if Nadir likes something like that because it's a little bit different.
sense?
No, not because of that. I just
I'm only joking, Phoebe.
it's just a different kind of approach, because like the points are just decided while the event is ongoing and not at the very end, kind
For
of.
sure,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? I don't think that's a problem. I really like the idea. Something I just wanted to say with the medals, I do think now that what you just said, your idea is still better. I really like that actually. You obviously would need to think that through maybe a little bit longer
Yeah.
than just 2 minutes, but
Yeah, exactly.
just the idea, like on the top of my head, that sounds really wonderful. Other
So I
than
did
that,
just
though,
pull it out of mass. So I don't know. I've not thought about what the potential shortcomings of it are.
it's
Just I
kind of
thought, how do
the
numbers
only
work?
shortcoming that I can see is with the maps being that, like, depending on what stage you are, you have a different map, and that can just kind of like screw you over with the multiplications because you have like your good map in the match where you like easily win anyway, and then you get your bad map in the high multiplier match where you just need the good map basically. Maybe that plays a role, but you can't really, as a player, you can't really complain about that, I think. But in general, I like the medals. Just I like the distribution. Like the first and second getting the same medal, I like that a lot. Second, third, fourth, and fifth getting the same medal, I like that because it makes sense. Because it doesn't really matter. Because we at the beginning we thought, yeah, would it make sense to like say, yeah, maybe I'm gonna try to lose this match so I can like win the next one and then end up in challenger. It doesn't really work like that because of the medals being like third and fourth being the same as fifth and sixth. You just want to stay in the high tier match all the time, basically. Because the players you're going to face off, you're just going to face off like one match later. If you try to match fix, you're just delaying what would happen anyway. I think so. I like how the medals are. Just give them points. Just don't make it so ridiculous that that's just first and second is like that.
Yeah, I think
I
so as
mean,
well. That's not good.
as long as we don't, as long as there's not an obvious, like, because you see, one thing that frustrated me is like some of the top Trackmania players have shown that they're not shy of like sandbagging a match or match fixing themselves to like get themselves a better bracket. It's been seen before, even
And
some of those that are playing in
yeah,
Trackmania Grand League have done that. And obviously, you can look at it as being like a tactical decision or something like that, but I personally don't like it, and I hope we don't see something like that. But it sounds like the system isn't, as you say, Shorty, it is one that benefits you from putting in full amount of effort through all of the
yeah, I think so. At least I do think so right now. I think you don't want a match fix. I don't think you want to do that. I think that would be an unwise decision,
yeah,
or
because
should be.
not that I'd tar all the players with the same brush, but there's a few in there I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, I mean, I could see that.
But yeah, you have 4 medals: 10, 6, 4, 3. Do you remember those numbers? Why can't you just do that? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's too much, though.
yeah,
I would
you know
say
what
like 10, 5, 3, 1.
I don't. Yeah, whatever. You just changed 2 numbers.
I
Now, okay, you
changed 3
changed 4.
numbers.
Fuck it.
Technically, 3 was the same, so you only changed 2. You just put them in a different
Yeah,
order.
exactly. No, but you know what I mean. Like
But
I just,
for that, we're just gonna submit an idea request here.
yeah, you can think about the numbers, but I really think it should be points instead, or just actually thinking about what Scotty suggested. I think that's a really wonderful idea, and puts a lot of it makes every individual match more important, because even though right now you want to win every single match in theory, at least I believe so, that you always want to win your match, but still at the same time losing one of the first matches, you can still climb up But with Scotty's system, you would, in that process, at least lose a little bit of points, which is fully deserved, which makes a lot of sense. So it would be a good, would be working well, I think.
Yeah, well, we just have to see that one in action, though. But we also said that about the
Yeah,
multiplayer system, and
but
then it
I
worked.
just, I might just be the only one, but I feel so uncomfortable. I will feel so uncomfortable watching every single step where someone that's already safe in top 8 having to face off in like in like a finalist round against somebody that isn't. I don't know, especially like during the end. Like, of course, no one is. I don't think any player will ever just deliberately match fix anything, even like Sam and Massa. No, like, yeah,
Not like
uh,
they haven't done before.
yeah, but not on this
You
scale.
love to. That was evil.
Yeah, but it's yeah, you
You
know
know
what
who
I
you
mean.
are,
No, but
motherfuckers.
I but I still don't think that that's gonna happen though, or that somebody is gonna do that. But it's just gonna like in that situation, if the one that's already safe makes a stupid mistake in the ending, I mean, he's gonna get a shitstorm potentially on Twitter for that, and that's just scaring me because that's. I mean, those situations are you can't avoid them completely, but you can at least like avoid them as much as possible if you just would calculate like points for the medals instead of calculating the medals this weird way they do right now.
Yeah, Paul is chatting here. I see. Still digesting what happened in the BICP.
All
Yeah.
right, I didn't. I just see everyone bringing it up, and I'm like, fuck, here we go again.
Well, I think
Yeah,
shitstorm. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
but
I
that's
know.
not the point. That's not the point. But you should still avoid getting shitstorms as much as possible. You know, like of course, there's always going to be stupid people saying things and believing things that aren't true. But you can still work and create a system where those situations where something like that can happen are rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, either make it so that either one, they're easily noticeable, or two, that you're that it's not
Yes.
incentivized. You know that there's
Yes.
not a good reason. I mean, I'm not gonna call them out because, like, the that time has passed, and I'm not gonna shit in these people. But as again, you know who you are. But the only reason that these players done it is because a situation had presented themselves itself, which made it beneficial for them to not finish first. So hopefully there isn't situations like that that come about, and the system, for the most part, seems to incentivize that. But I mean, there might be issues, but like I said, I do have a little bit of a concern that these players aren't above underhand tactics, shall we say. And not all of them. I'm sure some of them are, but some of them also aren't. But I mean, it like these sort of things are always going to be a potential issue. It's it's like I would say that the match fixing is significantly worse, but I mean, you could also have an example of someone who just goes ham on the six lappers and only trained the last map and got
Mhm.
a
True.
big multiplier, or managed to keep his points, so he
Scrappy's
got a.
Yeah, but
Scrappy's story last season.
yeah,
It's not as bad, but it's
that's different though.
exploiting the system.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
what.
different way though, I think.
But I think it's also
Mhm.
some sort of skill to exploit the system. So it's not something that you should like that you should really like talk negatively about. But if you're able to do that, not with match fixing or anything, but you somewhat do. You somewhat match fix with
You,
just intentionally losing, but maybe also not practicing too much that you're not on pace. This could also you don't see the difference. Pack, for example, he was bad on vertigo. He knew that he's gonna lose there, so he would just hope that he wins the previous or like the first two maps and then loses in the top match against the best players on vertigo that he's still in gold and not already in silver that he has no chance.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I really don't think that in the system right now you will have any real strategy or where you like. It might be very rare, at least, where you were like, yeah, okay, I know I can like beat this and that player on that map, so I'm gonna like drop out of this match. But otherwise, I think it's always the better decision to like try and get top two in the match, even if you're on the even if you're on the already on the whatever the highest match is called. Even if you're in there, I think you always want to stay there if you can. But yeah, I'm just not really sure. I mean, you basically hold a ticket for somebody else to get into the playoffs, where you lose like one position. And considering, like Trackmania players are really close to each other, I just don't like that it's like this, and it's gonna be like this for almost every single step except the first one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but something I'd also like to highlight when we talk about Trackmania Grand League, and I think it's very important to when we talk about perspective and Trackmania. And I had a little discussion about this. This might sound a little bit off topic, but it's really not. And what I can speak of in terms of praise about Trackmania Grand League, when we even with us talking about having an issue, I was talking to someone who a Scottish player who had recently started streaming the game, and he's made massive progress over the last last month or two. When I've been watching, I was like, someone like taking over, or like you just driving that much better now. I was actually quite taken aback. But point of the matter is that he was still getting just as frustrated as himself when he was struggling to get silvers, for example, as now that he's surpassed that and he's getting authors and he's struggling to improve his time. And it's all about perspective as you improve throughout the game, but also with Trackmania, Trackmania Grand League, I'd like to also draw upon a perspective for this when we are talking about the mid-season invitational and talking about Trackmania Grand League as a whole, is that our expectations of Trackmania Grand League are getting higher because we are seeing an increase in quality. We are seeing a higher standard being shown. Increasing quality is probably in higher standard a little bit of maybe a crude way to put it. But the fact that we're complaining about issues which realistically are so trivial, which we might never encounter, which might be a minute problem with the system. We're not talking about how multipliers might potentially break the leaderboard. We're not talking about how players might get fucked over after a week's worth of training. We're talking about realistically in comparison very minor issues here. And I think that goes to show that the Trackmania Grand League has been making progress through the last few seasons. It might not be there yet, as there's still
they still need 10 seasons. No, I'm kidding.
As there's still some issues which people are highlighting. But it goes to show is that, as Phoebe puts there and kind of trees me a little bit, is that expectation raises with progress. As
it's definitely progress.
Grand League gets continually refined, there is still going to be issues that are going to get pointed out, but the fact that the issues are becoming less and less severe is a sign of progress.
I think it's I think I was seeing Ausarcade saying that today in someone's chat. I don't know where I was half asleep then. I don't even know when that was. But it's the make it or break it year for Trackmania. Also Trackmania Grand League, I think.
People have been saying that for like 6 years.
Nah, but really like
kinda, but
now
it's more true right now.
It's more true right now because you have all those success from streamers. If I just look into my list, there's people with over 1,000 views. Okay, Spam now has 930. But, when I was looking onto there, let's say 1 year ago, there was Riolu with 300, 400, and that was it. Trackmania is growing and the foundation is there. And I hope that also organizers will be interested in Trackmania also with Meloy and stuff, and also the Trackmania Grand League now coming to not be a show anymore, but an actual esport event. Also, players are looking forward to that, where the maps are a different story. I really like them. They remind me a little bit of the campaign maps that we have. Also a little bit easier, but
I knew we wouldn't share the opinion about that.
Weird. Yeah. So right now, the casual side is really outgrowing the professional side of Trackmania. It's not worth. There's no player, even if you win everything, who can live full time from Trackmania without having an org, having something maybe hardly, but
streaming.
Yeah, streaming is the thing, and not
almost every TMG. How many TMGL players stream?
Yeah, almost everyone, but there also in other esports there are players who are not streaming. That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. And you're Tal, by the way, and that's okay.
Yes. I just wanted to like highlight your point, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it does goes to show. I mean, the players' worth has, of course, went up now that they're getting a lot more. They're getting a lot more income through organizations paying them more because they're getting more stream interest. I mean, I remember back in the days where, like, the top offer, this was when Sampi was around, and Sampi was offering players €500 a month, and that was like the top offer. That was the marquee offer going to players like Kronos, Massa, and stuff like that back in the day. And now you're talking about players who are demanding things like €20,000 a year just from an org, you know to pick them up for a tournament or something like that, or more or less. I mean, that's just a little few I've heard about that we're talking like 15,000-20,000 euros. I mean, or more. In some cases, these sort of guys are, of course, coming very popular, and their value is going up based upon what people are willing to pay for them. And it just goes to show that you're starting to reach that threshold of players who are able to live from the game. But here's a little question when I think about how the casual side is overtaking the professional side: is that when will someone come back to, like, for example, if you're a top player, right? So say I'll use Spam as an example, since I've been using him as an example for pretty much this entire podcast. Is that what if he then decides, you know what? I don't want to play Trackmania Grand League anymore. He's got his follower base now. He's got his interest base where he could still make a living, so to speak, through streaming, but he doesn't have to put in the effort for
No.
Trackmania Grand League anymore. So it is something to consider as we go further down that line, because a lot more of these players are getting picked up on as influencers almost, rather than Trackmania Grand League players. You know what I mean? So it will be interesting to see if that
Yeah.
situation
I see
develops
what you
into
mean. Yeah.
something differently. Because I mean, like I always give the example of, with Trackmania Grand League and some of its players, when some of these players didn't have sponsors, they were threatening to quit the game. They were putting up videos, they were having, their final goodbye stream and all the rest of that, and then a sponsor would come along and they're back straight into the grind. You know what I mean? And it goes to show that some of these people are having their priorities in their pockets, and that's not a bad thing. Absolutely. I mean, that's just the way that some people who have been playing the game for 10 years don't have the same fire or passion for the game anymore, which, I mean, I get. But it's like that's what I can kind of relate your kind of problem to and your issue to it, and I kind of say where I will where I'll be interested to see if Trackmania Grand League does suffer from an issue in that kind of sense, where that is becoming a lot more lucrative or a lot more interesting, or you're getting a lot more from it if you're spending more time streaming casual content, rather than, the interest base isn't being translated to the professional side of Trackmania, for example. So be interesting to see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. I'm very
Yeah.
interested how that goes. I don't know.
Yeah, indeed.
It's a sticky situation that we're in right now. I can see this point from Hylas, but then he cares about feelings and mental health. Dude, why should he implement some point loss systems or multiplayer systems for players? That is very, I don't know. Like, it must be the worst. I'm so happy to be a caster, but of course, maybe he doesn't know the effect, and I'm also not too much into that, So it's very harsh, and people will definitely stop professional gaming also because they maybe are too old and want to focus on other things. Maybe just also chill a bit, focus on content creation.
I mean, what I think with like looking at these things is the problem. I mean, the thing is the people, the players playing TMGL and playing at the very high level. I think I mean, they obviously want to get something back from it, and the only thing that you really can get back from it is like monetary value, like gaining money with it. Because if you're streaming and you get like views from it, then it's kind of bound to the game, but at the same time you can always just switch the game. Like what ties the current TMGL players to Trackmania? I mean, like you said, not really much. They can you obviously it would still be risky, and you wouldn't know if it would be successful, but they always can and just switch the game. And I'm not sure if that's something good for an esports or like TMGL thing to have. I know Nadeo isn't really like trying to go the normal esports route and everything like that, but I think you still have to understand that the people that do play at the highest level, they do want to be able to live from that. I think.
Mhm.
I mean, you can see that people don't stream even though they are on TMGL, even though they have to invest a lot of money and they are sacrificing like free time for that, which usually you would want to get money for that. So it's a difficult topic. Obviously, I can understand I can understand the way Nadia is trying to go with it, maybe, but I just hope it's not continue. I just hope it's continued to develop to just develop in the way of esports just being something where you actually can live off with events like Melloy and things like that. Even if it's not Nadeo, I don't really mind. It doesn't have to be Nadeo themselves. But I think if events like Melloy show that the players do want to get money, then Nadeo should accept that fact and say, yeah, we had our idea about this and that, but this is what the players want. They want to be able to live off from TMGL. Then we are going to try and tailor it towards those the needs and the
Mm.
wishes of the players in that kind of sense. Like
I think they
you
could already
can
do that actually, but maybe there's still too much risk involved. But there's always risk involved in all of those things. Always when you're self-employed or if you have a game or whatever, there's always a risk. There's always a
yeah,
risk of
exactly.
this fails. It's just how life is.
They already have the risk though, even right now without getting made maybe like so much money off from it, they already have the risk. Like
Mm.
it's not like the risk is going to increase that much more. I mean, a little bit, obviously, sure. I mean, they are sacrificing time, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I see
that's.
your point. Yeah,
I
weird
mean, we are
situation.
basically working off from things just that Phoebe is just saying right now and Speedy, and we don't even know if any of that is true or even remotely true. But given that what they wrote, I feel like I fully understand it, and I think it's a nice concept and it's nice thinking. But if the people themselves we're talking about want something else, then give them what they want.
Well,
I mean, we are not kids, so
yeah, I assume that TMGL is more complicated because all the system already, with the orcs having the
it
spots,
definitely
and
is
then
very
also like
complicated now.
how are the orcs getting paid by Nadeo? Are they getting paid? How the players are getting paid? What is behind? We don't know that, and of course,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
there's no need to disclose that in the public. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a unique system which works out well, but I think yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to do that. But I mean, I'm done with talking about Trackmania today,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
and I'm hungry.
just to get back to what Scotty said. I mean, like I mean, what you did with pitting, and even though I think I was the most negative about the medals and stuff, I think the new system, all in all, even if they
It's
don't
very
change
nice.
the medals, which I still hope they consider to like make points instead of the medals. Even if they don't do that, I think it's definitely going to be the best season so far, and it's a big step, not only in fairness, but also it's going to be kind of
Great
easy
to
to
watch.
follow. Yeah, it's going to be good to watch. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be very nice, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's going to be an interesting season, and no doubt will certainly give us a lot to talk about over the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean, I'd also agree with Turbo. I think this is enough of us talking Trackmania,
Yeah.
even though he's going to be going to stream and talk about it more, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, this will be the end of our episode for this week. It has been Let's Talk Trackmania. I've still absolutely no fucking idea what episode it is. I forgot to check the last one, so I'm scuffed and I do apologise.
53, 54, something like that. I think 54.
There's a 5 involved. I'm confident about that then, now that you've said
There's
that.
a
At
5
least
involved, yeah.
there's at least one. There's possibly might be 2 5s involved.
Next week, too.
54.
Oh, actually, it's
Thank you,
54.
Erwin, and we will be at 55 next time. But once again, and as always, this podcast has been brought to you by Mr. Erwin Weber and ESAC.gg, and also your two lovely co-hosts, Mr. LuckersTurbo and Shorty DE now, not Shirty. So I'm glad to have the full fat version of Shorty back now instead of the semi-skimmed version. But yeah, and I have, as always, have been your host, Mr. TMScotsman. But that will be it from us for tonight. We will be back next week, hopefully same time, same place. Hopefully some of the issues are in the rear view window and we will be able to get back to a more regular schedule. But until next week, until we've got more to talk about, once as always, hit us up on the privates or in the socials if you want to suggest anything. But until then, we will see you later at Tuesday at 8 p.m. and right here once again. But good night from now and see you all later.
Good night.